Now, I do want to give a kind of exilic take on all this, right? Because as I said, the imperial take has plenty of problems. With the Orthodox take, the vantage point of empire should have all kinds of problems with this idea of that flesh is evil, humanity is evil, and that somehow we need to be apologetic about the fact that we are corporeal, that we are embodied, right? That we are flesh, beings of flesh and bones. But also from the point of view of exile, which, is as I've said, seeks to offer a corrective, a suspicious, slow blinking, sideways glance at the claims of empire. But even when you look at this topic through the lens of exile, I think you can see that there's a certain amount of privilege involved in this spiritual but not religious moniker, this mantle, this identity that people try to have. Being spiritual but not religious, it just, especially when you consider, what the book of James, for example, says, that true religion and undefiled religion before God is this, that you care for widows and orphans and you keep yourself unspotted by the world, right? There's a sense in which even John says, if you say you love God, but you don't help your brother, you're a liar, right? Anyone who sees his brother or anyone, the other, in need, destitute, naked, hungry, thirsty, and you just say, be warmed and filled. Well, you're doing it wrong, okay? In today's terms, it would be like thoughts and prayers. After every calamity, after every school shooting or mass shooting or just horrible event that happens, natural disaster, whatever, thoughts and prayers. And it's this sort of glib, blithe, cliche that does nothing for anyone. And I think that this idea of that we could be spiritual but not religious is kind of like that, where it's like I'm just sitting here in the lotus position, meditating on myself and just going deep within myself, trying to hover off the ground because the earth is evil. And so I want to sit here disembodied, and say Om over and over again and hover off the surface of the planet, being spiritual but not religious, right? It's like, well, that must be nice to be able to sit in some comfortable, warm, heated, safe place and just dwell on yourself, and you can outsource the religiosity to others. Let let Greenpeace or the March of Dimes or whatever other charitable organization out there. Let the Catholics take care of it. They're good at that stuff. And it's just like it smacks of such a privilege and a kind of disassociation from the actual world. It seems very Gnostic. It seems very I don't know, it gives me the creeps. It's gross to me. Spiritual but not religious, it just reeks of privilege, that you can just sit there and, calmly meditate and put on some nice music, maybe Enya or whales, the sound of whales, and just kind of detach from the world while people have actual needs that you don't want to meet them because after all, that's just flesh. That's just, I'd rather tell them to be warmed and filled so I can go back to my yurt and meditate more, right? Nothing wrong with meditation. I think everyone should meditate. I meditate. Everyone should have that time of, breathing, centering yourself, all that's nothing wrong with that. But I'm saying when you're doing that to the exclusion, or even worse, when you're doing that as an excuse to avoid being religious, I find that to be a Christological mistake. If the Jesus event teaches us anything, it teaches us that heaven has come down to earth, right? I've talked a lot before about how in radical theology, which is what I'm doing is very much connected to. In radical theology, the issue is not trying to get everyone up to heaven, right? But it's getting people to realize that heaven is empty because God has poured himself out as a sacrifice upon the surface of the world, right? And so this idea that we need to, escape the world and get up there, well, but what if God has come down? What if heaven has touched down? into this world, and what if the whole Jesus story is meant to illustrate this very idea, right? Heaven is here. Heaven and earth are, joined in holy matrimony, and what God hath joined together, let no man put asunder. Okay, and so this idea that we can just detach the two, and I mean, it's just like it's like after you've mixed a batch of cookie dough, you're going to try to extract the salt from it, or extract the baking soda or the sugar from it after it's mixed. Like once it's mixed, you can't extract that now. It's too late, right? And it's like this idea that we can just focus on spirituality to the exclusion of religion, or spirit to the exclusion of the material, is this very, very error that the Docetists made, that it is a denial of the humanity of Christ. It's a discomfort with humanity in general. I mean, even with our own bodies, right? How many people are just not comfortable in their own bodies? And so, spirituality can only happen here, right? Because this is where we are. God can only act through us, right? Anytime one human being cares for another, we veiled in flesh the Godhead see, right? Because there is no Jesus without us. There is no Jesus without his body. A head without a body can't exist or be of any help to anyone. Disembodied spirituality is of no use to the world. It needs to be clothed. It needs to be clothed with flesh, right? Veiled in flesh the Godhead see. Any spirituality worth anything to the world needs to be clothed with acts, concrete acts, and therefore religious acts of service that provide the gay apparel for spirituality to don.